time we're done. And if you've got questions, save them, and we'll be happy to cover all of that at the end of the program. So thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thanks, Jed. Appreciate those few words. Michael, did you want to say anything at this time?
No, I'll hold my brief remarks to when we're finished and just kind of go over the brief process moving forward.
Okay, so then what I'm gonna do, folks, is I'm gonna share my screen and we're gonna look at a little bit about AMA Waterways, but mostly we're gonna look at this beautiful itinerary that Jay and Michael have put together for you. Okay. Okay, so everyone, can you see my screen, Jay, Michael?
Yep, we're
Okay,
good.
wonderful. Yep. Okay, so here we go. So again, the concept was born, not my idea, but these gentlemen came to me a few months back and said, hey, we're starting to put this concept together. We want to know a little more about this itinerary, that itinerary, the best dates, so on, best pricing, best promotions, so on and so forth. And this is basically what we ended up with. It's an itinerary that we call the Gems of Southeast Europe, and it will be traveling on the 17th of October in 2022. So more than a year from now, which is great. We've got time to plan and get ready for that. And basically, let's go through a couple of things first. Here are our hosts once again, Al, Jay, Mike, and myself. And at AMA Waterways, we always start our presentations by, this is a quote from one of our founders, who's unfortunately no longer with us. He's passed on, but he said back in the early 2000s, oceans take you to countries and rivers take you through them. Okay, so what he means here is that ocean cruises are wonderful. Everyone has a great time, but a river cruise brings you right into the heart of the country. And when the ship docks, you're in the town, you're in the medieval port, you're in the medieval town or city, you're rubbing elbows with the locals, and you spend the whole day in the town and the evening in the town. And because the ship is docked in town, you can get on and off the ship. It's your floating hotel. That's the concept. So if people have not been on a river cruise, I want you to understand that it is truly a unique experience in this respect. That it's culturally immersive and different from other modes of vacation experiences. A moment here on our owners. These are the owners of the company. It is a family-owned and operated company, similar to Jay's company. And left to right, my boss here is Gary Murphy, and in the middle is Christine Karst. And her husband with the glasses is Rudy Schreiner. And the reason that I like to show this particular slide is so that everybody knows who we are, because my sense is that not many people know us if you're not in the industry. We are the highest rated river cruise company based in North America, but Rudy is really at the root of this. Rudy Schreiner started a company in the 1980s called Uniworld Luxury River Cruises. That was a tour operator, and they hired Rudy to build river cruise ships for them and put together itineraries. And he did such a good job that in the middle 90s, when a company called Viking River Cruises, and I'm going to guess everyone's heard of them, when they opened their doors in 1995, they recruited Rudy Schreiner, our president now, to start that company, to build their ships, to design their ships, build the ships, design the itineraries. And he did that quite successfully. And you know, obviously today they are, I believe, the largest river cruise company in the world. In the early 2000s, though, Rudy decided that he wanted to start his own river cruise company. And he teamed up with Gary here on the left, and that's his wife, Christine. And Gary's dad at the time was also part of the ownership. And they started AMA Waterways. So we are maybe not the largest river cruise company in the world, but certainly one of the highest rated companies in the world with regard to our ships and the cuisine and the itineraries and the excursions and things like that. And we're very proud of this. So again, river cruising, so everyone understands, it's a flat bottom ship. You're on rivers. There's no seasickness. You don't have to get dressed up at dinner time. It's very laid back. Fine dining. All of the food is locally sourced. Nothing's ever frozen on the ship. Everything's prepared, right there, right on the ship. And then the excursions. So the excursions are really your vacation experience, and you have a choice of anywhere between 4 and 6 different excursions every day, and they are included in the pricing. So this is the nice thing about river cruising. It's not like in the old days you'd get on a motor coach and go from city to city and hotel to hotel, and you'd pack and unpack, or you go on a rail tour. This is different. The ship is your floating hotel with 2 5-star restaurants on board, and all kinds of other amenities and features on board. And the fact that the excursions are included really helps the experience, and different types of excursions as well.
And Steve, if I can jut in here quickly, the excursions are absolutely awesome, but you have to keep in mind, you do as much as you'd like or as little as you'd like. If you want to sleep in the morning, you sleep in the morning. You don't want to do that particular excursion, you don't. You want to take a bike ride into town, you can take, they have bikes on the boat. So it's not like it's a structured program, but it's unstructured because you're making the choices whether to do things or not.
Absolutely. That's a very good point. You can do as much or as little as you want. You can do biking, you can do hiking, you can do walks, you can do easy walks, you can do more challenging walks. It's up to you. That's why we give people choices. So here you can see on the screen is the particular ship that this particular itinerary and sailing are doing in October of next year, the Verde. And the ship holds 160 passengers, has a crew of 55, 2 restaurants. River ships are much different than ocean ships. Everyone has an outside stateroom. There's no such thing as an inside stateroom. So everyone has, the main deck has fixed windows in the staterooms. And then the other the two upper decks all have balconies, right? Either a French balcony or a twin balcony stateroom. So you have, one of the things that we're known for is putting fewer passengers on the ships than many of our competitors, so that the staterooms are larger, the public areas are larger. It's a very modern ship and very comfortable, okay? And just to give you an idea, again, I'm not assuming anything here. I'm not assuming people, one of the guests said that she traveled with Amma. I think that's wonderful. But if you've never been on a river ship, this is what one of our typical twin balcony staterooms looks like. Queen bedded, can be, or we can situate if two twins if people are not a couple, and you have 2 balconies there. You have a balcony to the right where you can see the chairs are on the inside. That's what we call a French balcony. That door will slide open. You can't sit out there, the door slides open. On the left, behind the curtains, you can see the 2 chairs are on the outside. That's a full balcony. In the morning, you can sit out there and have your coffee. In the evening, you can sit out there and drink a glass of wine. It's lovely, okay? So on a ship like this, about 60% of the cabins would look like this. And the other, let's say 30% of the cabins would have 1 French balcony. And then there's the main deck that has the rectangular windows, the fixed windows, okay? So that's basically what a stateroom looks like on this particular ship. Cuisine, when we see the itinerary, you'll see we're going to be going through 5 countries in seven nights, okay? The cuisine literally changes every day. The menu changes every day depending on where we are on the river, depending on what country, what region. So you'll see the menu, the chef's menu changes every day depending on where we are. And again, everything's sourced locally. Nothing's ever frozen. We make our own breads. We make our own pastries. You get a choice every night of fish, beef, lamb, chicken. You know, there's something for everybody. And then always on the right side of the menu, we have a North American menu for people that maybe are looking for some comfort food. You can get a New York strip steak every night with a baked potato if you like. At lunch, you can actually get a cheeseburger with French fries again. So we understand that sometimes people on the road, you're eating a lot of local cuisine, and maybe you just need that cheeseburger. You need some red meat there. That's fine. We get that, and you can mix and match the menus every night as well. Same thing with breakfast and lunch too. So. And then what's included besides all your meals are included, obviously, but also with your meals, we serve local wines, and we serve beer. That's included in the pricing. And every day, just like the menu changes, every day the wines that we offer, the fine wines change every day, depending on where we are. There'll be a new white every day, a new red every day. And if the white wine that we have that, let's say on a Wednesday, is not to your liking, you can go to the waiter or waitress and say, what we had a nice white wine on Monday. I prefer that, and absolutely you can do that. So everything's very laid back. Local beers, and then before dinner every night for 1 hour, we open the bar. This is the guest lounge here. Behind this young lady, you can see the bar. And we open the bar every night for 1 hour before dinner. We call it the sip and sail. And basically, the cruise manager comes down and addresses all the guests and lets you know what the entertainment is on board after dinner, whether we have an excursion off the ship after dinner, and what the next morning will look like as far as excursions and what time they start. Usually excursions will start at around 9:30 in the morning to 10, 10:30. These are the times that we're leaving the ship, okay? 9:30 to 10:30 usually. Depends where we are.
And these wines that are served too are not, they're not like Trader Joe's, $2 chuck wines. They're absolutely awesome from the local areas that you're traveling through, and they just are, one is better than the next. And as Steve had suggested, if on Tuesday you have a bottle of wine that you remember the name, and on Thursday there's a different wine, and you say, you know what, I'd love to have the wine, whatever the name of it was on Tuesday, your wait person will go back and get that bottle of wine for you.
Right. That's a great point. And so everybody understands, a lot of other cruise lines have a house wine that's included in the pricing, and then they sell you the better wines when you get on the ship. We just pick the best wine we can from the region, and it's included, right? And it changes every day. And you'll also have, we're up to the activities now. You'll also have ample opportunities off the ship to do wine tastings, beer tastings, cheese tastings, what have you. We like to, on our excursions, throw in some specialty from the region. You'll finish one day in a local town, or whatever they're known for, if it's their local pastry or something like that. We want you to eat what the locals are eating too. So save room, because usually you'll have a fourth, maybe smaller meal, but a fourth meal, and do some wine in town, and so on and so forth. So this is how we do it. This is how Rudy Schreiner, who ran 2 other river cruise companies, wants to do it. He wants to do best foot forward. Let's do it that way. This particular slide just shows you the different types of excursions that we do. We do 3 different kinds of walking excursions. There's a gentle pace excursion, there's a regular pace, there's an active pace. Gentle pace basically means that maybe you don't walk as fast as some other people in the group, or maybe you have a slight issue with your hip or your knee, or you've got a mobility challenge. You go in the gentle pace. You get 2 local guides instead of 1. You won't cover as much ground. You won't walk as fast. It's a better way of just separating people by ability. And then we also do guided hikes, which you'll see as we go through the itinerary. There's so many great hikes on this itinerary. I'm chomping at the bit to get to the actual itinerary, because it's such a cool itinerary. And then we carry bicycles on the ship. Again, not everybody does that. This is another Rudy Schreiner idea. That ship carries about 28 touring bicycles. And these are not competitive rides. You'll go out with a couple of guides, and you'll bike. Most of the rivers have bike paths along the rivers, right? I mean, that's a common thing to see. And you'll bike along the river through vineyards and things like that. So there's all different activities here. And it's also neat to mix and match. One day you can do a bike ride, next day you do a hike. What I like about it is we take people out in small groups, usually 15 or 20 at a time, not the whole ship. We break them into smaller groups. And when people get back on the ship, let's say for dinner, everyone's had a different experience. So the conversation, either at dinner or after dinner or before dinner, when the bar's open, people are comparing notes. They're showing each other the photos. Look what I did today. I did the hike. Oh, I did the bike ride. I went to the national park. Oh, we did a rock climb. So it makes for better conversation on the ship. It makes for a more diverse experience of everyone on the ship. So I kind of like the way we do that. Now the itinerary. So the itinerary name is Gems of Southeast Europe. technically what it is the lower Danube River. The Danube River starts way up in, like, say, Nuremberg in Germany and goes all the way out to the Baltics, okay? And typically to do that whole itinerary would take 2 weeks. But what we do is we split it up. We do an upper Danube itinerary, and then we do a lower Danube itinerary. The lower Danube itinerary is considered the road less traveled. It's very, very unique. It's west meets east. It's ancient civilizations. It's all kinds of really incredible cathedrals and castles and fortresses and cultures, the old Christian cultures, the Jewish cultures, the Muslim cultures, and it's a natural wonder. So if you have river cruised, and the most popular rivers are the Rhine River and the upper Danube River, and a lot of people think of all the lovely things that are in Austria and Germany and France and places like that, the Netherlands. This is not that. This is different. This is going back not just to medieval times, but to ancient times, to the times just after Christ in many cases. And you're going to see the most amazing things here. So it is a different itinerary. It is a unique itinerary. Historically, it could be the most interesting itinerary in Europe. And you have all different types of cultures here. And you have a rich history and cuisines. And look at the countries that we're going to go through. So on the cruise starts in Budapest, Hungary, and ends in Giurgiu in Romania. Okay.
Steve,
Yes.
the reason we chose this particular itinerary too is because it's different. The traditional first time river cruise to Europe, most people would do the Danube and the upper Danube, and they would do it's Budapest to Prague, and that's all outstanding without a doubt. But this is, I wanted to pick something unique. So instead of the same as anybody else may have done in the past, even if this is your first time, this is totally different. It's totally unique, and that was the reason why we chose this, as well as being in October. The weather there in October is very similar to here in the east. So it is indeed fall weather. The benefit of that is you're not getting the heat of the summer. If you went like 3 or 4 weeks later, it could potentially, you could get some snow and frost. So we picked an in-between time that was kind of after the summer season, not that cold yet, and a little bit more comfortable temperature for people to be able to enjoy the day instead of being hot and sweltering and sweaty, which you could surely get in Europe in July and August, is the reason why we picked the October timeframe.
Thank you for adding that, Jay. And that all makes sense. And October has become one of the best months to get on a river cruise. I would say April and May, September, October, these are now the peak months. As it gets warmer in many parts of the world, it used to be, July and August were peak months, but not so much anymore because it gets very warm. October, these dates are wonderful dates to do this. And if you look at the itinerary, so we're going to sail through Hungary, Croatia, Serbia, Romania, Bulgaria. You can choose to do a pre-2-night stay in Vienna or a 2-night stay in the post in Istanbul, but we have a special treat for you that we'll go through later that Jay and Michael have put together with my company with regard to the post stay. So we'll look at that. So let's go through. Here we would actually get on the ship in Budapest, Hungary. Budapest is the capital city of Hungary. It is a wonderful walking city. It's actually 2 cities, each side of the river, Buda and Pest. One side is Buda, the other side is Pest. There's all kinds of great cuisine here. It's a walking city. There's not a lot of vehicular traffic, so it's a pedestrian city where you can walk around and shop, and we do some castle visits here. There's a castle we visit here that's not far from the port, where Vlad Dracula was actually imprisoned while they were trying to figure out what to do with him. And his name will come up later in the itinerary as well. This image here that's in front of us these are the parliament buildings in Budapest, and they're right on the river, and they are illuminated every night. And the river ship will sail back and forth in front of this, and you get some great photos. People are on the top deck after dinner, after the entertainment, and it's called the Illumination Cruise, and it's really wonderful. And you just come back with the most spectacular photos of this. It's really beautiful. I'm sure everyone's seen this image before, but actually doing it the first evening is quite exciting. And then again, now a smaller city in Hungary is Pécs, is pronounced Pécs. And I like this slide because it actually sort of gives you the theme of what we're going to be doing for the week. If you look to the left, there's a famous mosque there in the center of the city. In the center image is a famous Roman Catholic church, and to the right is a famous synagogue. So this is going to also be a common theme as we go through this itinerary, in that you had for almost probably about 900 years, you had these three major religions, major cultures living together and living together pretty harmoniously. Of course, that ends around the end of the first millennia, and then they start getting after each other, and we'll look at some of the fortresses and the way they defended each other from each other. But this is really, there's not that many places you can go to in Europe where you can still see, in the same city, a mosque and a church and a synagogue, and they're all still in place, right? So very interesting. This is the Eltz Castle in Vukovar. Vukovar is on the Danube. It's now what's called Croatia. The Eltz Castle was actually established by some German noble families, and early on, Germany, the Habsburg family, sort of ran this part of the Danube. Okay, so early on, it was a German and Austrian influence, and this, as time changed, these families donated this manor home or castle to the local people at some time. Novi Sad. Novi Sad is a famous city in Serbia. This is a famous church, the Church of St. Mary. Look at the architecture. Again, cuisine, architecture, culture. I'm going to bring up the same themes as we go through these. I won't stay too long on each slide because there's so much to see. A very interesting city. This is the fortress at Novi Sad. This fortress was held by different cultures over time. At first, the Habsburgs used this fortress to defend against other invading forces, and then eventually the Serbs were using this fortress to defend against the Ottoman Empire, against the Turks. At some point in history, probably the 16th century, it was basically the Turks moving north up the Danube River that everybody was afraid of. They were sacking these towns and cities. So you'll see now, I mean, today you can see outside, it's been turned into a tourist attraction, obviously, but it was a famed fortress that repelled many attacks over the centuries. This is the Royal Palace of Serbia. The Serbian royal family still lives here. So this is still their home. It's been for many centuries. And I think on the grounds somewhere here is the Mausoleum of Tito, for those who remember Tito, the communist ruler of Yugoslavia for, I want to say about 40 years, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know the exact, maybe the 40s to about 1980s, I think. So this is a very interesting visit as well. Skalargia. This is a really nice small town outside of Novi Sad, where we'll spend an evening here. There'll be an excursion here one evening, and we will actually stop and dine here and listen to some music and have something to drink. And the local, very laid back, just a very laid back place, nice visit. I think it's a really nice excursion. Saint Sava in Serbia. This is a beautiful Orthodox church. I have a particular interest in some of these churches here. The fact that some of them start out being Roman Catholic, and as you move downriver, that more of them are Orthodox. My father was Orthodox, and my mother is Italian Roman Catholic. So I understand just from the architecture, from the outside, the difference between a Roman Catholic structure versus an Orthodox structure. There are little things you can see, and then in the icons you can see the differences. If you go in the church, a church like this, usually you'll see Christ with the two fingers. It kind of looks like he's giving you the Boy Scout sign, but that's obviously not what that is. But to me, this is fascinating. That's why I bring it up. This is a beautiful, beautiful church, and just really well maintained. Just a beautiful visit. Some of the local culture here, you see the way the women dress in the traditional dress here. Just to give you an idea of where we are now. It's not, again, we're not in Germany now, right? We're not in Austria. We're not upriver. So this is some of the local culture. This fortress here was actually built in the 12th century. I believe they started building it in the 12th century. It wasn't finished till like, I don't know, maybe 1325 or something like that. This is one of the most famous fortresses in that, according to folklore, they repelled over 120 attacks over the 800 or 900 years that the fortress has been around. So it's been attacked many times, but one of the most strategically advanced fortresses along the river here. And I think this is iconic too. I hope people have seen this image before. These are the iron gates as we move downriver here. And that is, you can actually see that carving there is from about 150 AD. And you can actually read the inscription there, which is obviously newer, but that's King Deceballos, who was the last king of Dacia, okay, and he was known for he ran the Romans out of town basically. So they carved a huge statue to him, and this separates Serbia and Romania, and it's the Balkans are on the right as I'm looking this way, and the Carpathian Mountains on the left, I believe. So this is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And this is the other thing I want to bring out about this itinerary. Just look at the banks. It's very different from other river cruises that we do, where you just see vineyards and there's towns and things like that. This is not so much like that. This is very natural. You'll see a lot of, there's a wild bird population that's very interesting to see, a lot of flora and fauna. So very natural. This is truly the path less taken here. It's not built up at all. It's very, it's the way it was 1,000 years ago. Okay. And when you get off the ship and when we take you on these excursions, it's not touristy. There's not hundreds of tourists all over the place. This is really, there's not a lot of river cruise companies doing this itinerary. There's not lots of ships along the river here. There are some, but not lots like you'd see in, say, Vienna or in Budapest or other places on different rivers. This is really off the beaten path. I can't say it enough. This is spectacular. A Balkan barbecue. Again, I can relate to this cuisine here as we move downriver. In that, again, growing up in a Greek household, this is similar to what my grandmother would prepare. This on the left is some sausage and some yogurt from goat's milk, and there's potatoes and tomatoes and some type of lettuce there. And on the right, you see the eggplant. I'm getting hungry now looking at this eggplant and roasted peppers and some more goat cheese. And this is typical now. We're getting closer to Turkey and some of these other places. So it's almost a Middle Eastern type of cuisine. as we travel. And again, I can't stress this enough. The cuisine will change literally from day to day. You'll get local specialties each day, and people taking pictures of their plates, and people, taking photographs of the menu and stuff like that, because it just changes every day, and it's so interesting, and it's stuff that typically you're not going to find here in the States, right? So really interesting stuff. For me, this is the food I love. Vida is we docked the ship here, but really the story about this city now is, if you look in the lower left corner, you'll see a moated fortress, castle fortress, lower left-hand corner, and that used to be all that was here pretty much until the 1950s, when the Soviet Union built a yogurt factory here. And after they built a yogurt factory, they populated the place. They built it into a city for people to work there, basically. So you have this really unique medieval fortress to the lower left there, and the rest of this area are these Soviet-style compounds where the workers lived. So interesting. But really, what we're doing here is this Belogradchik fortress. Is another UNESCO World Heritage Site. This is a natural rock formation. Fortress was built around it. And supposedly, what the local guides will tell you is, to the left at the peak, you'll see the Madonna. And to the right there, you'll see, they call the elephant. Now, honestly, I can't, on this slide, I cannot pick out the Madonna, and I couldn't really tell you what of those structures is an elephant, but that is how it goes. That's the story, and it's very interesting in that you can, and it's not too steep, but you can hike to the top of that rock formation. So that's this is again another real interesting visit. Another fortress, again, you're seeing is the theme here is, somebody sacks your city and you build a bigger fortress, right? So this is the Baba Vida fortress in Bulgaria. This is known for being currently the largest known maintained fortress along the Danube River. So another important fortress. Veliko Tarnovo. Let's see. I'm trying to remember. I'm not sure I visited here. I can't really tell you what we do here, to be honest with you. I'm not sure I visited this place when I was there. And we have Rus. Okay, so we're coming to the end of our river cruise. You spend the afternoon in Rus, but you have 3 or 4 other options this day that you can do. And then from here, the cruise ends. And this is the special that we sort of held toward the end of the presentation here, is that there is a 4-night Transylvania post land extension. And the current promotion that Michael and Jay have booked into is this land extension is being offered complimentary. It's free. Okay. So now you have a choice. You can do the 4-night Transylvania extension. It is on us. It is on Jay and Michael. But if you don't have the additional time, you don't want to do that, you can choose a $500 per person discount and just do the 7-night cruise. Totally up to you. It is a limited time offer that requires a deposit, just a deposit by the end of March to receive either of those 2 offers. But more importantly, let's go through the actual the extension now. We'll look at Transylvania in Romania. This we're looking at here is the Pels Castle in Romania. This is Brasov, okay, the Black Church in Brasov, Romania. Brasov and Bran are famous or infamous for the Dracula legend, right? So Vlad Dracula or Vlad the Impaler, and a lot of that folklore is going to be kind of woven into these 3 or 4 days. This is a beautiful town, Brasov. And Sighisoara is actually the town where Vlad Dracula was born. so you can go through here. But today the town is more known for the vibrant colors and the architecture and things like that. Obviously, they use the Dracula name for touristic reasons, right? And there's a lot of folklore behind that. But it is a beautiful town, and it's a fun walking town. This is the castle where he lived and reigned, Vlad Dracula. Obviously, Bram Stoker made Vlad the Impaler popular in current folklore as a vampire, but the actual story of Vlad the Impaler is much different. He was actually, charged with keeping the people of this area safe from the Ottomans, from the Turks, and he was a ruthless warrior, and he did, today we would consider these things war crimes. He was not such a great guy. And this castle is sort of referenced in Bram Stoker's book, even though Bram Stoker had no idea this castle even existed. He had no knowledge of this. So some of it is folklore now, and some of it is just made up stuff. So, but it's a fascinating visit, and actually it's a museum now. So some of the queens from history in Romania, their belongings are here, their furniture's here. It's a really, really interesting castle visit. Local traditions, again, I've gotten away from this a little bit, but again, we do tastings pretty much every day that we go into a town or a city. In this case, to the left, we have these wonderful donuts. They're filled with whipped cottage cheese, and they've got raspberries or cherry on top. They're really good. And on the right, you have some sweetbreads from the region. And again, just to remind you, save some room. The food on the ship is wonderful, but we'll have plenty of tastings off the ship. And also to say that even though they're lesser known, the wines of this region are very good. I mean, we might not necessarily know about them here in the States, but I've had plenty of Hungarian wines and Romanian wines, and they're really quite good. So don't be a wine snob when you come to this part of the world, and just kind of leave some of your pre-thoughts behind. Some of the wines here are really good. And then we finish up this 4-day extension with a visit to Bucharest, which is the capital city of Romania. A lot of history here as well. And the fun part of this day is going to Lipscani Street, and this is referred to as the Little Paris of the East. So a lot of great architecture, shopping. By the way, I didn't mention this earlier, but your US dollar goes really far in Eastern Europe, in this part of Europe. You can buy a beer in the local pubs in most of these cities is $1 or less. Okay, so your money goes really far when you're off the ship. That's a great thing. And I think that's it. I hope I didn't go over time or spend too much time on any one thing. But yeah, that's the itinerary. It's very unique. It's very different. The cruise company is renowned. The ship is beautiful. The staff is fantastic. You'll be with two great guys, Jay and Al. It is a come along group, of course. So I guess we can open it up to Q&A if you like now, Jay. Unless Michael wants to say something?
Nope, go for it.
Okay,
Stephen, can I start it with a couple of questions?
absolutely.
For the bike excursions or bike rides, do you guys provide helmets, or should we bring our own?
We provide helmets. Al, and we give you a 30-minute class on what are the rules of the road depending on what country we're in. How to make a left turn signal, these things, that thing. Then you'll be with two guides at all time, one in the front of the group and one in the back of the group, so we don't lose anybody. Okay.
How many people did you say are on the ship?
160 passengers is the capacity.
How about tips for local guides?
Great question. So tips for local guides, we we tell you to bring some local currency, small amounts. You know, if I'm in a Eurozone and a local guide um, does a great job, I'll give them a euro or two. But no one's checking up. It's up to you. It's totally your call. Depends how many people you're traveling with. But you do whatever the currency is for that country. It is a good idea to bring some currency with you. Change usually, a dollar, $2 worth, things like that.
Just keep in mind too that the cost of this cruise, the only thing that you would need to bring any extra money for, um, honestly, is the euro or two for the step up for the guide person off the ship. We are including all of the gratuities on the ship, inclusive of the package, so you don't have to worry about that. As well as the port charges. Michael will go through that in a little bit. The only other expense that you really would have is your off the ship beer, or if you want a snack. Remember, all the meals are included. And the way that the days are generally structured, and I'm not 100% sure on this particular cruise, but if you're not doing something sometimes until lunchtime, you'll have the afternoon to do some of the side excursions, and the morning is cruising. Or flip it around the other way, where you'll do something in the morning, come back for lunch, have the afternoon at a little bit more at leisure as well. And the beauty of this is, if you haven't done a river cruise before, as Steve mentioned it earlier, the ship is docking right most of the time right in town. So you can go walk off into town, you can walk back for lunch. If the ship isn't leaving, you can go back afterwards. And in even regards out to biking, if you are doing a biking excursion, it's as Steve mentioned, with a couple of guides. But if you, if in an afternoon, as you're walking off the boat, you decide you don't want to walk into town and you want to grab one of the bikes, you can reserve a bike, put a helmet on, and just go off on your own little bike excursion into town on your own.
Yep.
That's allowed. So there's just so much flexibility. I think that's, from my perspective, being in this business, that's one of the best parts of this. Is you can, as I mentioned earlier, you can do as much or as little as you want. It's all there for you, and you really and truly do not have to put your hand in your pocket for next to anything. You need a couple of bucks for to go to the bathroom when you're off the boat. That's one very important piece.
Yesterday, right, Jay? Yeah, we did. Yeah. So Jay brings up all good points, and in Europe, in many places, they have pay toilets, right? They don't have like public restrooms. Sometimes they do. Sometimes our guys will bring you to a place, to a museum or cathedral that has a public restroom that's not a pay restroom. But Jay's exactly right. What you're going to need some pocket money for is local guide tips, as Al brought up, or if always you don't want to get stuck and you need a restroom and it's a pay restroom. But we're not talking about a lot of money. The restrooms maybe 50 cents in US, that kind of thing, or a buck or something like that. And the other,
you also on this, if you do indeed, the airfare is not available yet through AMA, but it's even to the point of, if you book your air via AMA, your ground transfers from the airport and the boat are included as well. So you really and truly could come on this for 8 days, and for the most part, you really don't have to spend any much more than $20, maybe. I mean, everybody will spend more just because you'll buy souvenirs, but it's all inclusive, it's all taken care of, and it's really easy.
the other thing I want to bring up one quick thing there, because Jay's bringing up a lot of good points here. When you come in, let's say you fly in to Budapest, we meet you at the airport. We meet you right when you come out of customs, and we pick you up and we bring you to the ship. When you finish the itinerary, we take you from the ship to the airport, okay? Or we take you from the hotel. If you're doing the post package, we take you from the hotel to the airport, and we walk you to the kiosk that you have to, do your pre-check, and we show you how to use it. Because we know that people don't, listen, we don't expect you to speak, Bulgarian or something like that. So we're local people that help you check in and then say goodbye to you after your luggage has been taken. So I think the whole process is brilliant. And the other thing is, extension with us, we're the only river cruise line where the cruise manager gets off the ship and travels, does the land package with the guests. So you'll have the same points person the entire, whether it's the 8 days on the ship or it's 12 days on the ship and the land. It's the same person. I think that's a brilliant, it seems like a little gesture, but that continuity means a lot to people when they're traveling in foreign countries, right? So that's something else I wanted to mention. What else do we have?
Excuse me, can I ask something?
Sure.
Do I gather, like, we shouldn't count on ATMs then to get local currency? You should bring it?
So you can, this is the way I do it. I figure out by country what's required. I can certainly work with Michael and Jay on that based on the itinerary. We'll look at the countries, we'll let everyone know. I wish it was all EU. These are not all EU countries, right? Even though technically some of them are part of the EU, the currency is not. They're weaker systems, right? They're not as wealthy as Germany and France and Switzerland and so on. So what you do is you figure out the currency. You get some of it ahead of time, but these days, man, we're going into cities. And that's the other thing that the local guides do for you. If you go with a guide, you go on a walking tour, the two things you're going to ask them is, where can I have a potty break, and where can I get an ATM? And that's part of their job, is to bring you an ATM, right? So, but to answer your question, I bring enough local currency to get me started. $100 worth of local currency, and then I ask people where the ATM is. We don't really have a bank on the ship, but we can certainly get you to an ATM.
Steve, you're kind of fading in and out. I'm not really sure why, but
Can you hear me?
yeah, I mean, so there, it seems like every now and then a couple of your words get faded.
It could be my internet.
The other thing with the currency, the ATMs, the only thing I would encourage you all to check with your banks and your credit cards as to where there's fees and where there's more fees, because some of your cards will indeed have no fees. You just have to check with the bank, because there's also transaction fees. So there's percentages. Sometimes it's 3%, sometimes it's 10. And if you're not careful, it's also sometimes per transaction. So if you took $100 or you took $5, it's the same fees. So you have to be careful with the amount of times that you go. You wouldn't want to go and get, $10 3 times a day type of thing.
Jay, you're spot on again. You do some research ahead of time, figure out which Visa card you're going to use, which ATM card you're going to use, what MasterCard you're going to use, based on what Jay just said. It's easy. You can just call and ask, I'm going overseas, I'll be in these countries. What do you charge for transactions in these countries? Okay. And I see that Stephanie has her hand up. Stephanie, did you want to ask a question?
Yes. Could you just slowly state the fly into from the States, fly to and fly home from, even with the Vienna in the beginning, because that would be of interest to me.
So if you want to do the pre in Vienna, you fly into Vienna. So you understand AMA can do air from any gateway in the US into any of the places that we start or end. So let's say you're in, for argument's sake, you're in Chicago. So you fly from Chicago to Vienna. There's numerous ways to do it. There's numerous airlines you can do it on. We have contracts with all the flag carriers, the European flag carriers. We work with most of the US carriers. In the way that we do air is you can just just get me the best air, the least expensive airfare, or I want to tell you what flights I want. I have mileage on this airline or that airline, or I'm part of this alliance. I want to do this. So you can do it. You can tell us what you want, or you can just let us say, this is the best contract that we have. So you fly into Vienna. If you didn't do the Vienna, you'd fly into Budapest. Okay. Usually from Chicago, you'd get a nonstop you'd get over the water to maybe Paris or to Frankfurt. Who else has nonstop? Amsterdam. The bigger airports, the bigger cities will have nonstop service from the U.S. And then usually what you have is remember, Europe is not, most of Europe travels by train. So a flight from one of these cities to Vienna or Budapest would maybe be about 40, 45 minutes.
Right.
Okay.
And then coming back, if you
Yes.
did not extend, you'd be leaving from, I got lost there.
Giurgiu, which is the same. It's I think it's the same airport. I think it's Bucharest either way. Because we're not going along the river now. We're just going inland. We're going into Romania, and then we'll go back to Bucharest. We finish in Bucharest. Either way, whether you just cruise with us, you'd finish in Bucharest, and then we just kind of make a loop, and we end up back in Bucharest. So it's Bucharest back to the States.
Okay. Thank you.
Stephanie, Bucharest is probably no more than about 50 miles at the most from Giurgiu, where the cruise ends.
He's-
Oh, okay, got it. That was
Well,
Michael.
who said that, Michael? Yeah, Michael, you're right. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Making airline reservations, I know that. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And when it comes to the air, you might want to wait until, you'd have to wait now anyway, but wait until AMA comes out with their scheduled availability and check to see what AMA's costs are versus I would almost guarantee you that AMA's rates will be less than what you'll find on your own. Again, the beauty of it is if you do book it through AMA, you will get the transfers upon arrival and then upon departure. If you book it and you use your points to get there, the transfers then would be on your own to get to the point. I'm pretty sure that's the case. Is that not, Steve?
Let me just clarify that a little bit.
Yeah.
So if you do your own air, we'll still do your transfers, but there'll be a fee. It won't be,
Oh, that's right.
it won't be outrageous, but we just say, when you buy our air, we comp the transfers. If you buy your air and you're still coming in the same days that the other guests are coming in, we'll do your transfers. Okay. But we'll sell them to you, right? That's the difference. Okay.
That's right. And the transfers range, what's the normal range cost?
On the rest of the Danube, they're not expensive. They're 30 or 40 USD per person. I'm not sure about Budapest is easy. The airport, Austria, Budapest are easy. They're probably $30-40. I'm not sure about Bucharest. I'd have to look into that and get you the price.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Stephen,
And Stephen, I was just going to say, I know I was told, and I can't remember the exact amount for Bucharest, but I just remember thinking it was totally in line with what I would expect to pay if I was coming into a U.S. city. It was very reasonable.
Okay. Yeah.
Stephen, if we chose to go into Budapest before the excursion began, before the trip begins, and we use your airfare, will you still provide the transfers?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we can do that, provided it's not like a week before or something. If it's a couple of nights before.
Yeah, 2 or 3 or 4 nights.
Because on the upper Danube itineraries, Al, we have a pre-night stay in Budapest. So there's a hotel we use there. We do transfers there, provided it's not something wacky like you're coming in a week before. Yes, yeah. Okay. And it's an easy transfer too. It's not, the airport is, when you get off the ship in Budapest, it takes like 12 minutes to get to the airport. It's not far from downtown, right? Anybody else?
What about the entertainment on the ships or on the ship?
That's a great question. I didn't really touch on that, did I? So the entertainment is, again, it's not a big ship. The entertainment does not travel with us. So it's different every night. We book local entertainment. We don't have a huge budget. The guest lounge has a dance floor and space for, say, a quartet or something like that. We have a piano lounge there. So it's usually string quartet or folk dancers or folk singers. Some of it's very interesting, and some of it is not that interesting, right? So for me, when I travel with my wife or I travel with my family, we usually find out at the sip and sail what is tonight's entertainment. And if it's something I really want to see, it's compelling, I stay on the ship. If it's not, I look and see, did we see something this afternoon that we might want to go back to? A nice bistro, a nice pub, do a little shopping in the evening. So it's totally up to you. We're not offended if people don't stick around for the entertainment. We understand that it's 50-50, I would say. But that's usually what it is. It's local stuff. It's young people coming on and doing a nice dance. I think the nicest thing that I've seen recently was three women came on the ship on the Danube, and they played a jazz guitar with a couple of violinists accompanying her, and it was really good. But I've also seen some stuff that was pretty kitschy that I didn't need to see again, right? It's some of the typical things you'd think about in these big places.
The nice part, Steve, is it's generally about an hour's worth of time or so,
Yeah.
because these folks have to get off the ship before the ship sets out to sail. So and it's in a nice, you're out in the front of the boat. It's just a nice, picture it as sitting in your living room. You're literally in a nice little comfortable lounge, big huge windows. You're not like you're not stuck in behind chairs and a table. And if you want to get up while they're playing and go get a cappuccino or go to the bar and get a drink, it's really laid back and extremely casual. You don't interfere with the people performing. It's obviously courtesy if you're, catch a break in between two tunes or two things that they're doing. It's a little bit more courteous to go grab something in between rather than interrupting in the middle, but it's extremely laid back.
It is. And Jay, you should come work for my company because you're doing a great job here for me. And I will say that the guest lounge, the seating is mostly sofas and love seats. So it's very comfortable, very laid back. And the waiters and waitresses bring drinks around to you and so on. And you can't really upset the entertainment like Jay said. I will say this to you, because I know we start this itinerary in Budapest. For whatever reason, Frank Sinatra is immensely popular in that part of Hungary. They love him there. He's idolized. And where we dock our ship in Budapest, you will actually walk by a club, like a nightclub, right on the pier, called Frank's Place. And there's a silhouette of Sinatra, and it's really cool. And I was, my dad was a huge Sinatra fan. I love all of his music. But I can remember once with my wife being on the ship, and three musicians came on, Hungarian musicians, and they start doing like covers of Sinatra, and it was awful. I was like, no, please, no. I know you love him, but please, you're hurting my ears, that kind of thing, because it was so different. It was like think of Hungarian folk music, to Sinatra's lyrics or something like that. So again, that would be a night where you could leave the ship and find something different to do. We're not offended, okay? So,
Are there any more questions from anybody, other than there's a couple? Michael, I don't know if you want to address a couple of the questions in the chat.
I think I have I've responded to all the ones that came up in the chat. And just to kind of introduce myself, for those of you that don't know me, I am the manager of travel industry accounts. I've almost been with the company 10 years, and I'm still the newbie. So that really tells you about the company and the people that stay here, because we really enjoy what we do and we enjoy who we're working for. I'm going to be your contact point for any questions or anything that has anything to do with this trip. Stephen, I don't know if you've got my contact information you can put up on the screen. So please feel free to reach out to me either by phone or by email. My extension is 318, but you can also get there just by dialing that number there, and then someone can transfer you if you don't have the extension number. Tomorrow, we'll be sending out an email with attachments that will have detailed information. It'll have the itinerary that Stephen went over. It will also have the 2-night pre-option in Vienna, the 3-night post-option in Istanbul, and then the 4-night post-option that goes to Brasov and Bucharest that right now is a complimentary add-on through the end of March. The pricing that we'll send out tomorrow is going to include your port charges and taxes, your onboard gratuities. Of course, Stephen said it's covering your meals, it's covering beer and fine wine at meals, plus during the sip and sail. Also, the pricing includes it includes the AMA Waterways travel insurance protection, as well as their cruise protection plus, and that will be detailed in the packet. If you don't want to use their insurance, if you want to use a third-party insurance, we can certainly back that price out, but just that the price that you will see is pretty much inclusive of almost everything except for air and some other things. So I don't want to take much more of your time. I do want to, well, I really don't probably need to introduce Al to most of you. I'm sure most of you know who he is, but just in case you don't, Al has spent 26 years as a major league umpire, worked almost 3,400 regular season games, 59 postseason games before he retired. He worked 2 World Series, 2 All-Star games, 3 American League Division Series, 5 American League Championship Series, and a few of my favorite iconic moments that he was on the field for include Bucky Dent's homer over the Fenway's Green Monster in 1978, which I actually saw shortly after I got off the bus from, I think I was in 3rd grade, 4th grade. It's really one of the first baseball moments that I can remember in my lifetime. He was also behind the plate for Randy Johnson's first no-hitter, Nolan Ryan's 300th win. He was on the field at Candlestick in 1989 for the Earthquake World Series, and he was behind the plate in 1995 when Cal Ripken Jr. tied Lou Gehrig's consecutive games played streak. So Al's gonna be the closer for a change and make sure that we don't go into extra innings. So Al, if you want to say a few words.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Michael. Thank you so much. Stephen, thank you for doing a great job too. Even though we are going to Europe for this cruise, we will be talking some baseball because right at that time, we've got the playoffs, we've got the World Series, and this year we've got so many different rules and situations that are coming up, like the elimination of minor league cities and teams, which I think is a huge mistake for Major League Baseball. So from my standpoint, not only am I going to enjoy each and every one of you as I do on every UmpSide view that I do around the country with sports travel and tours, of which I've been with Jay for about 25 years now. But I just enjoy talking baseball with baseball fans like you all. And I'm looking forward to it. Mike, let's play ball.
All right, excellent.
Keep in mind, everybody,
and just one,
Michael, as we're closing here also, it's Jay again. I want to thank everybody for joining in. Al, as you might spread the word to other family and friends, you don't have to come on this cruise and be a sports fan or a baseball fan. This was just a creative thing that I came up with that I thought was awesome. I've gone myself. Al is just a hoot and a half if you want to hear some stories. My wife, Carol, is not a real baseball fan, but she's listened to Al a number of times. I don't know if she laughs at him anymore after the 20th version, but she laughed her tail off the first go round, and he's just got some great stories and just as a good guy. But it's not something that you're not going to be tied and gagged that you have to sit and listen to sports things every single day. It's a cruising in these great places, and that's what the whole cruise is all about, to have some fun, laid back, and hope everybody can join us. And you have questions, again, Michael is the point guy to get a hold of.
And just one last thing, I know Stephen alluded to this at the beginning, I believe, but this has been is being recorded, so we will be able to circulate that link, and you'll be able to watch this again at leisure. You'll also be able to forward that link to any friends that you might have that weren't able to attend tonight.
All right, Steve, anything else? Last bit?
That's it, guys. This
All
is
right, thank you all. Michael will be in touch with the paperwork and the information for you all. And if you have questions, give Michael a shout, and it'll all be laid out with the different cabins and the different costs. It's like anything else. If the higher you go, which there's only 3 layers you can go, but the more balconies you add on, the higher up you go, the little bit more cost. But keep in mind, if cost is a factor, the lower level of the boat does have windows, and you're not in your room all that often. So it's really not that urgent exactly where you are. It really depends on what you want to buy and the luxury that you want to have, but they're all really great. The rooms are all really great rooms. Well, thank you, Steve. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Stephen.
And we'll hopefully see you guys in October of 2022. Stay safe, everybody.
Nice seeing everybody.
everybody.
Good seeing you too, Steph.
Yep, good seeing everybody. Jerry, Al, Jay.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Jerry. Bye, Steph.
Bye.
Bye, Jeff.
I'll be emailing you, Jerry.
Michael, I'll check in with you tomorrow.
Sounds good.
Okay, guys. Have a great evening, everybody.
Thank you, Steve.
All right.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Bye, Al. Nice
Thank
meeting you
you.
all.
Thank you.
Oh, somebody's got a dog.